Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nexon Arena. It's time for our second matchup of the night, the last matchup of the week. And it's going to be a good one here, man. You know, MVP, definitely the underdogs, but they've got some good players to bring it out here against Jin Air Green Wings.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see MVP as a team. Of course, they are totally revamped. They have a whole new influx of great players coming in. A lot of guys from IM, Prime as well, trying to reform this new team for MVP. But Jin Air Green Wings, we talked about this a little bit before the break. They're looking to become the #1 team here in Pro League in round 1. CJ Antis holds that title right now, but Jin Air Green Wings wants to take it away.
That they do. And, you know, Jin Airs bring a solid lineup of 4 players today. Interestingly, they decided to bring Trap again. Someone who hasn't had the best Pro League results, but here's that newly formed MVP team with, you know, even Liquid Hero coming in as a mercenary player. Aphrodite there as well. And Jin Air bringing the jackets. It's pretty cold outside, even wearing the gloves.
Yeah, man. Looking like military members here. Looking really, really cool. We have to give it to them. And for our first matchup of the night for this second round here, or the second matchup, I guess you can call it, it's MarineKing versus Maru, a TVT, and 2 very famous players.
AKA the MarineKing versus the Marine Prince, as they've been calling him for quite some time. He was once the learner, now he's the master. This guy has surpassed MarineKing in every way possible. The MarineKing will challenge him today in this first matchup to set the pace, and I hope that MarineKing has something planned here. The map is merry-go-round, so it's a 3-player map. Terran versus Terran, anything goes on this map. The map that often is decided based off of positioning. A lot of harassment you can do in the mid-game. MarineKing known for his heavy, you know, Marine play. There's a shot of Seed there for just a second on the MVP bench as well. And there's SOS.
He's coming up later, guys. He's going to be playing in game number 3 up against Liquid Hero, of course. Salvation there on the left, I believe. Liquid Hero himself coming in there for the MVP bench.
Yep. And, you know, there's a Terminator on the right side. And Rogue.
Rogue is the guy who has been replaced, I guess, in this lineup by Trap.
Yeah.
Trying to bring out just one extra Protoss player, it seems. Give Trap a chance. You know, Trap, one of the best players for IM when they were a team last season. And
Rogue,
this time coming over to Jin Air.
Rogue looking a little bit sad on the camera shot there. I think that might have been why we had a lingering one there, and I think he started to laugh about it. All right, let's talk about these matchups a little bit more in depth. We talked about the TVT quite a bit, but going into game 2, Lucira versus Kira. Lucira playing incredibly against Flash, but Flash, until his last matchup he just played versus SKT last night, was having a tough time in the matchup, so it's hard to say for sure who's really favored. Then we go into Hero versus SOS. That's Liquid Hero, by the way, versus one of the best Protoss players in the world. And then last, but certainly not least, Seed makes a return appearance here against Trap, who also is someone who we hadn't seen too much recently, but is also starting to make a little bit of a comeback.
That's like a very interesting matchup for me. That's going to be on Deadwing. We're going to get a really nice view of both of these Protoss players, where they stand in today's day, and how they're going to do. And you know, the 4th place player is always a guy who holds a very important place, especially after that 3rd place player, because usually that guy, you know, it could be a 2-1 against your team or a 2-1 for your team, and you want to close it out there. A lot of pressure in that lineup.
프로리그 마스코트 아유리입니다. 이번 경기도 2승을 향한 두 팀의 대결이죠. MVP 그리고 진해아 감독님
let's hear from these 2 coaches.
안녕하세요. 안녕하세요.
And we starting with
네,
Choya.
감독님, 지난 경기 때 최용화 선수가 애결 승리를 거뒀는데 왜 이번 경기 때는 출전하지
Yoa won
않은
in the
건가요?
ace match for the last match, but why is he not playing today?
Mind you, he wasn't playing last time either.
선수를 볼 수 있는 건가요?
Until the ace.
네, 그럴 거예요. 아마도 저도 잘 모르겠어요.
네, 그러면
He said he thinks it's going to go to ace match today, and if it does go to ace match, Yoa will come out.
He's like laughing. He's like,
승리를
no, it's not.
거뒀는데요. 설마 같은 이유로 출전을 하지 않는 건가요?
저희는 병렬이가 내일 개인 리그가
So the
있어서
ace player for the last match is not playing
개인
today.
리그 배려
for Jin Air
차원에서
either.
예선 뺐고요. 병렬이 없어도 이길 것 같아서.
It's because he has an individual league match tomorrow in the GSL, so he's not playing
매우
today.
기대가 됩니다. 사실 제가 오늘 의문점이 한 가지 있어요. 오늘 스승과 제자의 경기라고 알려져 있는데 조성주 선수는 제자는 무슨 제자냐. 같은 그냥 팀에 있었을 뿐이다라고 했고 이정훈 선수는 그게 무슨 말이냐. 제자 맞다라고 했습니다.
The
이게
first
어떻게
match
된
seems like the
상황인가요?
matchup of the master and his apprentice.
이게 원래 배우는 사람은
Maru doesn't seem like he agrees with that.
그래서 오늘 한번 박살 나고 정신 한번 차려봐야.
Shoya is basically saying that
스승님 맞구나 하겠죠.
그러면 이거에 대해서
the
어떻게
person who
생각하시나요?
learns often does not appropriately thank his teacher. So you should respect MarineKing more.
아마 그런 게 아닐까 생각되네요.
네, 정확한 입장은 경기로 알아보도록 하겠습니다. 기대되는 두 팀의 대결. 지금
So we'll have
함께
to see through the
만나볼까요?
match
김계진
who is
나와주세요.
actually the teacher and who is
저희가
the
모두 사이에
student.
세 분이서 꽁트를
That we
짜왔던
will.
것 같습니다. 지금
This is like an Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader scenario, man. This is a pretty sick one. I actually love to see these two clash here. It's like a future scenario that no one would have ever imagined. That we're in 2014. It's like we're in 2015 actually.
That we are.
We're not even
are.
in 2014. It's in 2010, 2011, someone say, well, you ever imagine MarineKing will face Maru in Pro League on MVP and Jin Air Green Wings? And that we're going to be in this situation where Maru has like far surpassed MarineKing, but MarineKing is making a comeback. And we're like, this world that we're in right now is just so hard to imagine at the time back when MarineKing was
Imagine
at
that
the top.
2-3 years ago. That's hard to imagine. You're very true.
Yeah. So I think this is a pretty exciting one. And when I saw those lineups, I was like, wow, this is really happening. Maru is heavily favored, obviously, going into this one. But MarineKing knows him very well. They are former teammates. He used to train him, made him part of who he is today. And I expect that MarineKing will have something prepared against Maru's style that we've seen a ton of TVT matches of in the past.
I'm sure he will. I do kind of fear for MarineKing here. Here he is for MVP. He's had some trouble in TVT in the past. I remember he brought out some kind of weird, strange build. I think it was like Viking Thor in TVT the last time. He just got crushed in the last season. And he recently went up against Fantasy in SSL, and he got 3-0'd. So he's having a lot of trouble in this matchup, and he's just not looking super confident these days either.
No. Just want to point out, for those of you who don't recognize the songs, it's a very unique song. It's a Pokemon theme in Korean. So, bit of an interesting song to point out there for those Pokemon fans. But Maru here, this guy is just so much more experienced. He's 6-2 versus Terran. He's won some very important Terran versus Terran matchups in the past. And 31-21 in Pro League, one of our most winning players last season. A top Terran up there with TY and Flash, leading the charge for the only Terrans that were doing well in Korea, period, in general last year. Byung kind of making his entrance on the scene towards the end as well. But the learner, when you would call him the apprentice, now is he the master?
He was the master of Terran quite a short time ago. He's one of the top guys still today. Can he do it?
Well, the match is starting, ladies and gentlemen. The King of Marines versus the Prince of Marines on our very first map, Merry-Go-Round.
Up here in the top right, in the red, the Terran player for MVP, it is MarineKing.
And down to the 6 o'clock position in the blue for Jenner Green Wings, it's Maru. It's the main match of today. Again, that same idea of the battle of the master of the apprentice. No matter who wins, it'll be a good show. Now, we do spawn here, the bottom for Maru and top right for MarineKing. So dropping the natural a little bit easier for MarineKing, and dropping the main arguably a little bit easier, a little bit faster to do for Maru, just depending on how he decides to use those drops. It's a fair map. It's balanced no matter what the positions, but just something to consider of how the map rotates with these spawning locations.
Mm-hmm. thing we've been seeing a lot these days in TVT is gas first, and as I mentioned it, Maru going for it right away, whereas MarineKing just going for pretty standard barracks first.
Yeah. Something to note, interestingly enough, I just want to point this out because we don't see this too often out of all the first-person views we've had. MarineKing does not color himself allied. He actually plays as his color, whereas you could see that Maru, on the other hand, actually colors himself allied as green. That's something that you could do in StarCraft, you know, in your user interface if you want to just be known as green every time you spawn, no matter what color you are. Something you can do. But MarineKing decides to play as red, and I like that a lot. That's just kind of like him saying, I want to stick with my color, not going to play green.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Because, I mean, almost every time we see the first-person views, almost every player colors themselves green, but MarineKing does not.
That is true.
Well, MarineKing is, you know, with that later gas, not going to be able to get a factory up as quickly. Just gets a Reaper instead.
Whereas on the other side of things here for Maru, he's going to throw down that factory right away and start some marine production. Usually with the gas first build, we do see some aggression. You know, you can go straight into starport. You can get those Banshees out very quickly. Especially, we would like to see a second gas added in time if he's going to go for that kind of build. On the other side of things, he can just go factory-oriented, try to go for some Hellions, some tanks maybe, you know, marine tank push. A lot of stuff is possible for the player who is going to go for the gas first. Whereas for the other side of things, MarineKing, with the barracks here, the later gas, he's able to get that faster expansion, which is now scouted.
Yeah, he just barely missed the SCV of Maru. He might have been able to kill it and deny it. But as it is now, not only is Maru going to scout that CC, he's going to do a little bit of harassment to try to delay it. And MarineKing's Reaper runs into trouble. Oh my goodness, he lost a lot of hit points on that. That was a close call there. There goes that SCV back in the main. 10 health left. So he was still 2 hits away from death. Not at the last second there, but pretty close. And an excellent scout here from Maru. He gets all the information that he would like to have.
Yeah, and funnily enough, for MarineKing, with that Reaper, he's forced to come back here and clear up this SCV. He's not able to jump into the base of Maru and get a scout. So right now, he doesn't have much of an idea of what is going on. He sees the Marines, so maybe he can say, oh, okay, he went for the factory, went for that gas first. But he can't be 100% sure. He hasn't seen the gases. He doesn't see the fact that there are 2 gases right now coming up for Maru.
On this map, you have to do a double jump to get the Reaper into the main. You have to. So look at this. He's actually just moving across the map with marine pressure with the Hellion. He knows he's ahead in tech. He knows this is a risky CC with no bunker. Scout all of that. You could just leave. You could just leave. Now he's going to have to fight, unfortunately. That Hellion has 1 shot left on it, and it'll die.
Yep, there we go. Nice targeting by MarineKing, part of the MVP team, but Maru's not letting up. Coming in with just 1 Hellion, starting to do some damage. 1 more shot will do it. He's not quite able to line it up, though. The other guy is trying to run away, but he runs into the back.
Yep, that Hellion still has plenty of health left here. He's going to just try to get as much damage onto these SCVs for potentially a follow-up push. Or
yeah,
actually,
the Banshee is
coming
coming in.
Yep, the Banshee might be able to one-shot some of those SCVs now with that extra damage.
Yep, definitely. MarineKing, I think he's kind of noticed this as well. He's like, okay, I'm going to make a Viking. Just be safe. He's already making a missile turret as well. I think something just tipped him off about this. Maybe just trying to get that Hellion in and get a bunch of damage.
Yeah, I mean, he saw only Marines at the front, which can sometimes be a tell. You're never 100% sure. He also knows he killed a lot of Maru's units, so he can actually move across the map with his own Hellion force, but that's exactly what this Banshee and this Widowmine are waiting for. Going to get a great shot off here. Double hit on those Hellions, and now the Banshee could just ward these back. Does force you know, the SCVs to be pulled away from that CC temporarily, and the Banshee is going to have to be careful about that Viking. Now that the Marines were cleared. Yep. But he actually doesn't chase the Banshee down.
And Cloak is finished.
Yeah. He can actually come over here and do a little bit of damage. There's no Raven. The turrets, though, are everything here. He made 3. Not taking any chances when it comes to this.
Big commitment. He's still going to have his Vikings in position, which he does. He brings them immediately back into the main, and this Banshee is not going to get any damage done. Going to be forced back. Very nice defense. We do have a second Banshee, though, out on the map, looking to head towards that natural. But once again, another missile turret coming up, another Viking in position.
Yep, that's that 3rd turret, man. He's totally safe, leaving nothing to chance. It's already confirmed what he's up against. And he's shutting this Banshee harass down hard. The only thing he's missing is a Raven, but he's making medevacs instead. 3 Vikings and all those turrets doesn't absolutely need a Raven. Maru has a Raven back at home in case of potentially, some counter Banshee harass. Also many great for detection against all sorts of things from Widow Mines to later Cloak Banshees. Also PDD is going to be something that gives him, a lot of flexibility. And also the PDD can save his Banshees and or Vikings in an air control battle later on if he decides to push with these siege tanks because he knows he has the siege tank advantage.
Yeah, we also see him switch that starport. He's going to be making a bunch of Vikings here, trying to take that air advantage. And on the opposite side of things, we do have an armory coming up. A lot of Hellions for MarineKing here. Might want to go for some Hellbat drops. He's got 4 in the medevac right away. He's making 2 at a time, and he's continuously just making Hellions.
Yeah. If, you have 4 Hellions in the medevac, you can't put 4 Hellbats, but you can drop 2, transform those, and drop the other 2 and transform those as well. Something you can do. And you can save 2 of them, potentially. Is the armory finished? Yeah, it is. Okay. He's coming across the map with his Hellions to try to distract, to try to keep the focus at the natural. And here come these Hellions. Looks like he's just going to run them in Hellion mode to do that lineup damage. Here we go. Lines of shots being done here. Nothing to spot here from Maru because he's so concerned about those Hellions. And a ton of damage being done here already. 6 kills. And he escapes despite the Viking count. Boosts out of there.
He's put a lot of the units back in the main, but at the same time, MarineKing does not decide to go in the front. Of course, the tanks for Maru going to be very hard to penetrate, but he has morphed into Hellbat mode. Maybe just to heal them up a bit.
I think so. I don't think he's going to try to break this, but you know what? He might just do a big drop into the main.
Could drop on those tanks.
He's going to try to break this, in fact. He is going to do it. Here he goes. Dropping Hellbats on top of these siege tanks. Going to do a ton of damage to those Marines with the AoE as well. Hellbats with the healing. Just ignoring those Vikings. PDD, not very much use here. That siege tank does fall. And now he's got no answer for that army on the ground. What he could do, I suppose, is land his Vikings, but so many SCVs are going down. They're running into more Hellions and more Hellbats.
Oh no, they're running into danger.
Trashing this economy right now.
He's doing so much damage. He does have the Vikings to land. He does have that one Banshee to ward these off eventually, but it's really all about that damage. Take a look at the worker counts right now. Maru going down very heavily. He's down 12 workers now. 13 SCVs killed in that attack.
And now, what can he do to counterattack without siege tanks? Without siege tanks, it's not going to be easy. MarineKing is taking a greedy third base behind this. Let's see how much this Banshee Viking harass can get done. Would not even be surprised if he lands these here because, there's not a whole lot home. MarineKing traded his entire army to do what he just did there. Turrets that he made earlier are going to come into play here as well.
Yeah, those are actually the most important things right now in defending these Banshee harasses because right now Maru definitely has a much stronger air army.
He did use the PDD earlier on his Raven as well. So
yeah,
he doesn't have that.
As I do say that, I do notice actually that MarineKing going for reactored Vikings out here. He's got 6 Vikings now, coming out 2 at a time. So in fact, MarineKing is able to put together some kind of air force here to defend against that. So Maru not really able to get much damage on the opposite side of things.
So he takes back control of his own base. Maru decides not to bring his Vikings. A safe choice there. Just like you said, that air control. That turret actually spots the Widow Mine. MarineKing is not afraid to play defensively, make turrets in this game. So where are we at right now? We've got mech on the way for MarineKing. He's got his additional factories. He's got his third base landing that he made earlier. Very greedily, but he's still able to hold. MarineKing's so good at being greedy and defending counterattacks. And on the other side of things, what we see from Maru, the Prince of Marines, is Bio. A ton of Marines being made. Viking count right now for these two, 8-7 in favor of MarineKing, but that Raven changes everything. That
Raven
Thor is not ready.
Everything. Also, one thing to note, we got to look at the upgrades. MarineKing has somehow squeezed out +1 out of that armory for his air units here. But again, that PDD, way too strong. Able to get a lot of shots here as Maru's Air Force.
He needs that Thor. Needs to get those shots up on the Vikings. There it comes. And he's going to actually target the Raven. The Raven goes down. Banshee's getting kills. Meanwhile, in the background, they're doing a lot of damage here. But he needs to cloak and try to escape here. MarineKing does scan. He does deny that turret. But MarineKing has a third base now. He has that third up. It's landed. And Maru still hasn't made one. He's going to have to actually do a stronger push across the map here. He's got a ragtag group of units. He's got a few siege tanks in the mix. Some Marauders and Marines. Stim is done. No concussive shells yet. Combat shield is nearly done. Let's see if he waits for it because he doesn't have a lot of time here.
Scan misses everything, actually, out of MarineKing. He's trying to scan Maru's army as it's moving across. And right now, Maru's able to set up a really nice spot with his tanks. We saw this out of Innovation against TY, able to get a really good position with the tanks. But here we go. MarineKing trying to get a bunch of Hellbats out to defend.
He doesn't have Medivacs to drop them. Had he had Medivacs here, this would have been a great comp to fight this. But as it is, he allows Maru to siege up, and then he cannot advance with those Hellbats. They're too slow. With Bio to tank for the siege tanks, he won't be able to close the distance. This Orbital is taking too much damage right now. Down to 400 hit points. It begins to burn, and MarineKing runs in. Thors do a lot of damage if they can get in there, and they do target those siege tanks down. The Vikings start to land. There's a few siege tanks in the back for MarineKing. Can he siege them in time? This is just a lot of Bio here.
The Bio with the stim is just doing way too much damage. The combat shields is finished as well. The Marauders doing a ton of damage to these armored units. It is so close. Trying to repair right now is MarineKing. Really great micro on the Thor. Into that Medivac. Saves it just barely. And he keeps his CC alive in the same time. He needs to repair it though. It's burning down.
It's burning down to 100 hit points.
There he goes. Okay. I was freaking out, man. I'm like, I hope he notices.
All right. But this is something that gets scanned. He knows the army's all in one place. He can drop the main, and then when the army gets repositioned, it's going to take a long time to get over there. Should be able to kill a lot of SCVs. And then, if the army decides to lift, he can actually attack the third base again, knowing that it's low in hit points. He's got a lot of army. Up on that high ground, he can send down to attack MarineKing's third, excuse me.
Hellbat's doing a very nice job of pushing this away, even bringing back a Viking to stop it as well. Try to take out some of those Medivacs, but again, Maru is somehow able to get his third CC in the meantime. He does drop it down, and he's still got a decent bio force. He's going to try to go for another drop here.
Scans all over the place. MarineKing now knows, okay, this is no longer just an all-in. You are going to have to transition. These turrets are not ready yet. They are going to get denied. They are going to get pushed down. This gives MarineKing a little bit more time, though, to get into his main base. Again, Maru has a second bio force. He could actually just rush in and attack the third. He's being very cautious. This is a huge Marauder army. This is almost, you know, it's like a great ratio of Marauders. It's just almost perfect. The amount of Marauders he's got here to actually fight this bio, or excuse me, fight this mech with his bio. Hellbat's struggling against the Marauders now.
That CC is burning down. He's not repairing right now. He's focusing on this fight.
He's not repairing. 20
down
hit
to 20
points.
health.
Doesn't repair
it.
Oh, he does not repair.
And at the same time, this is what you were talking about, the big bio force coming in the front towards the third base. He takes out the tank. Maru is ripping MarineKing apart at this moment in time. The third base is no longer mining. He forces it to lift, doing so much damage. He's going to go for another drop in the main.
And he's going to be able to force a cancel on this remaking CC. Again, MarineKing tries to come up with his army. It looks like might just be too small this time, especially with a loaded siege tank here in the main. He is going to come back. He is actually going to push this back, but then Maru can just go and drop his third base again.
This is the mobility of bio.
Yeah.
We do see the CC, the Orbital, trying to come back here and land at the third base, but already the bio forces are here, and they're beginning to focus it down. He forces the lift once again. MarineKing's not mining in the main at this meantime as well, whereas Maru is mining off of three bases. Look at those supplies. Maru is running away with this game.
Mech is a composition that needs three bases mining at all times. It's impossible to rebuild it without that, and he's just trading so perfectly with the better economy now. And MarineKing pushes him back once more, but this is becoming a more feeble defense every time. This time he's got two whole armies. He's got a second army killing the third base, which is not lifted.
And he kills
it goes down, and that should be game.
Huge sigh out of MarineKing. Can tell he's super frustrated with this. This is what Maru does to his opponents. He does not allow any time to breathe, and MarineKing has not had a second.
You give Maru a handful of Marauders and Medivacs, he will kill your third base. Doesn't matter what matchup it is, doesn't matter who he's playing against, he'll find a way. And now he's got this whole army, this massive Doom drop in here, so much healing power on these Medivacs, and he can just target, you know, kite back against those Hellbats. Eventually, once they're gone, he can burst down those siege tanks with his Marauders, decides to play it safe instead. He doesn't have to kill him.
Yeah, man. This is what you do with bio. You never take a straight-on fight. You just keep on attacking different locations. You give Maru this momentum, he's just going to rip you apart. That's what we're seeing now. Big Doom drop on the rest of the tanks. I don't think MarineKing's going to hold it off.
Does not look like it. And there's that MarineKing GG timing. He's typing it out. GG. The Marine Prince is victorious today.
Great play out of Maru across the entire game. He took some damage, but he's able to find a bit of his own to crawl his way back into the game. And then he's just able to use that momentum to slowly weed MarineKing out of the game.
MarineKing played very greedy with an expensive, slow-to-build composition. And Maru barely broke through. And I mean barely. One or two, more moments there had he not been able to hit that timing window before MarineKing's mech was too strong. before he had those turrets up to deny drops in the main base, before he had a Viking count to deny drops in the main base, that would have been a totally different story. That was an insanely close game. Even though at the end it doesn't really look like it, that was such a close game. And Maru was dancing on the edge of death and barely was able to pull that tempo back into his favor, get that third base.